Assalamualaikum and good day everybody. We will discuss organizational cultures and diversity for today's topic. So for this topic, we will define what is meant by organizational culture. So you have learned about national culture in international business, and we will learn them in depth in the next few weeks. But today we will learn about organizational culture. Second, we will identify the four most common categories of organizational culture. We will also discuss the characteristics of each culture. Then, we will discuss the nature and degree of multiculturalism and diversity into these multinational companies, and what are the practices in that multinational company to achieve organizational multicultural effectiveness. So for this topic, we will discuss more in depth the ideas from Trompenas. He proposed the term organizational culture because all organizations, they have their own style, they have their own traditions, so they have their own culture. And according to him, when people set up an organization, they will typically borrow from models or ideals that are familiar to them. So organizational culture are very highly related to national culture. So it is quite difficult to see organizational culture and national culture as black and white because they are interrelated, but you can have a sense of it. For instance, imagine if you are working in IBM. IBM is an American company. How would you greet your boss? Would you bow to your boss, or do you say hi as usual? Of course, you will say hi as usual because the American culture is more informal. So the organization culture of IBM is more informal. If you are working in Toyota, Toyota is a Japanese company, more likely that you will bow to your boss. Organizational culture is also quite related with the negative aspects of work culture. So these are some of negative work cultures that can be found in Singapore. So hyper defensive, going to resign. So it boils down to Singapore's culture of hardworking, and they also have high extent of individualism. At the same time, high collectivism as well because they are an Asian country. Okay, you can see the organizational culture of Tesla. Okay, according to Elon Musk, okay, the leader is an extremely important part in organizational culture because they are the ones shaping organizational culture. So, the main culture in Tesla is learning. According to Elon Musk, I'm interested in things that change the world or that affect the future. Okay, so it is highly influencing the culture of innovativeness. Okay, so these are the six main features of Tesla's organizational culture: move fast, do the impossible, innovate constantly, think like owners, and all in. So you can see in the work experience and also the organizational culture. Organization culture is shared values and beliefs enabling members to understand their roles and the norms of organization. So it's more or less like national culture. So it will cover observe behavioral regularities. You can see this in common language, terminology and rituals. You can also see this in norms. This is reflected by the amount of work to do, the degree of cooperation between management and employees. So when you go to different companies, you will notice that the way of them doing things will be different. Some companies are more relaxed, some companies are less relaxed. So this is referred to by norms. There's also dominant values that organization advocates and expects participants to share. Some companies they really appreciate low absenteeism, some companies they appreciate high efficiency. Of course, this will depend on the industry that the company is in, the leaders and also the members. And organization culture, as you can see here, what you can see is the yellow part here, the behavior and artifacts. These are visible manifestation of organizational culture. Within that is espoused values. These are formalized statements of organizational culture. You can see this, you can read this. And at the very core is basic assumption. These are tacit supposition of organizational culture. The accumulated knowledge being held traditionally year by year, shaping the organizational culture. Okay, you can see these differences in AirAsia and Malaysia Airlines. You can see the black and white of it in their office. AirAsia, the culture is fun, it's youthful, it's fresh because they need to innovate because it is an entrepreneurial company. And then you see the office of Malaysia Airlines. It's quite rigid, it's quite serious because it's an old company. It is highly related to the government. So although these two companies are operating within a similar industry, but their way of doing things are different. So at the surface level of organizational culture is the level of artifacts. This includes all the phenomena that a person sees, hears, and feels when they encounter a new group with an unfamiliar culture. So you can notice this when you start to enter an office. It includes the visible products of the group. It can be the architecture of the visible or the physical environment, the language, the technology, and also its creations as embodied in clothing, the clothing of the people who work there, manners of address, whether or not they address you with name or address you with your title. So it shows the power distance in that company. Okay, you can also see this in emotional displays and also myth and stories told about the organization. Their list of values, their observable rituals, and so on. One of the easiest ways to observe organizational culture is to look into their vision, mission, and values. As you can see here, these are the vision, mission, and values of AirAsia, and these are the vision and mission and values of Malaysia Airlines. So they shape the organizational culture, which goes to our second point and second layer of the organizational culture, which is espoused beliefs and values. These are all group learning. Okay, this will ultimately reflected or group learning, which ultimately reflects someone's original beliefs and values their sense of what should be as distinct from what is. So leadership is very important here. When a group is first created or when it faces a new task, issue or problem, the first solution proposed to deal with it reflects their assumptions about what is right or wrong, what will work or will not work. So you have to be in the company to understand, to experience the espoused beliefs and values here. And at the core of organization culture is basic underlying assumption. So what things mean, how to react emotionally to what is going on, and what actions to take in various kinds of situation. So although it is hard to pinpoint basic underlying assumption, you can see this in online reviews of companies. You can see this in company culture reviews, and when you talk to people about their experience working in a certain company. So these are the pros and cons of working in AirAsia and also Malaysia Airlines. Okay, Malaysia Airlines, AirAsia. So what is the nature of organizational culture? Okay, it is considered values and beliefs, okay, including philosophy that shapes how to treat employees and customers, rules dictating do's and don'ts of employees' behavior relating to productivity, intergroup cooperation, and also customer relation. It is also a value and belief of organizational climate. This is reflected by the way participants interact with each other, how they treat customers, and how they feel when they are and how they are treated by senior level management. Again, this goes to power distance. So Tesla to accelerate, to have sustainable energy. So this will shape how things are working and things are being done in the company. National culture and organizational cultures are highly interactive because the individuals in an organization are highly influenced by their culture, which is their national culture. So, national cultural values of employees may significantly impact their organizational performance. And cultural values employees bring to the workplace are not easily changed by the organization. For example, if you are a Japanese person working in IBM, you will not be an American. You will still practice your Japanese culture because whatever that you have learned during your childhood, during your growing up years, it is difficult to unlearn that just by entering a new organization. So, these are the dimensions of corporate culture. Okay, in terms of motivation, okay, you can see this in activities. Some cultures are more focused on activities, some cultures are more focused on outputs. Okay, relationship between people in that organization. Okay, uh, some cultures they focus on the job, which is putting the demands of the job first before the needs of the individual. Some cultures they focus on the person, so it's task based or relationship based. Identity. Okay, some organizations they focus on corporate as their identity, but some organization cultures they focus on the professional identity. Communications can also vary according to cultures. Some organization cultures are more open, some are more closed. In terms of control, some are more tight, some are more loose. And in terms of conduct, how to do things, it's more conventional for some cultures whereby individuals put the expertise and standards of the employing organisation first. Okay, in some cultures, some organisation cultures is more pragmatic, which is putting the demands and expectation of the customers first. Okay, you can read this on your own. So there are other dimensions as well in terms of corporate dimension. Okay, even in Europe, it is different for different countries, especially within their organizational culture. Globally, now this is interesting. Okay, you can see this a difference between Germany, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, and Vietnam. Okay, this is called the culture map by Erin Meyer. Communicating. Some cultures are more low context, some cultures are more high context in organization. Okay, German companies are more low context. Okay, Philippines companies are more high context. Scheduling. Okay, more rigid for Germany. Okay, more flexible for Philippines. Remember, this is highly related with national culture. So what are the organisation cultures in MNCs? They are shaped by numerous factors, including cultural preferences of leaders and employees. And some multinational companies, they have subsidiaries that wouldn't be easily recognizable as belonging to the same multinational company. Companies, the bigger they are, the more complex they are, because they are dealing with different activities, they are dealing with different people. For example, Berjaya group of companies, they do not have a distinct company culture because they are dealing with multiple companies as well. So, there are 4 critical steps to successfully integrate organizational cultures after international expansion through merger and acquisition, because merger and acquisition will disrupt the organizational culture. We have Causeway, Toto, they have different culture than Berjaya. Okay, so these are the steps to successfully integrate organizational cultures. First, the two groups establish the purpose, goals and focus of their merger. Then mechanisms are developed to identify most important structures and manager roles. And next, the groups determine who has authority over resources, and the expectations of all involved participants are identified. Communication between departments and individuals are facilitated. So, organizational culture will be seen in first decision making style. Is it consensus or is it top down? So you can see this in effective integration. Okay, effective integration require rapid decision making and a lot of variables and a lot of different decision making styles. They can lead to slow decision making and failure to make decisions or failure to implement decisions. Next is leadership style. Is it dictatorial or consultative? Is it clear or diffuse? So, a shift in leadership style can generate turnover among employees who object to the change. This is especially true for top talent. You can see this also in ability to change. Okay, some companies are more able to change, some companies are less able to change, they are less flexible. Okay, if they are low ability to change, you can see the workers, they have high unwillingness to implement new strategies and very high unwillingness to work through difficulties in creating a new company. Okay, another dimension is how people work together. Merged companies will create interfaces between functions that came from each legacy company. Okay, so failure to understand will lead to difficulties in working together. There's also belief regarding personal success. So belief in success will be different from different companies because they have different style and different way of doing things and different operations. A merger will make it more complicated. So there are three aspects of organisation structure that are especially important in determining the corporate culture. First, the general relationship between employees and their organisation, okay, employees and the unit, the vertical or hierarchical system of authority, and the general views of employees about the organization's destiny, purpose and goals and their places in this. Who are they in that company? And what is the purpose of the company in their life? So this can be differentiated within four cells. Okay. Some companies, they are focused on equity. Everybody is treated the same. Or everybody is not treated the same. Everybody is treated according to their title. Another dimension is what do the organization emphasize. Some organizations they focus on the job. Some organizations they focus on the person. Okay, if the culture is high equity, high person emphasis, it's fulfillment oriented culture, which is the incubator culture. Usually, companies that are entrepreneurial, they have this culture. If it's high equity and high emphasis on task, that company is guided missile here. They focus on the project. If that company is focused on the task and focus on the hierarchy, titles are important, level of knowledge are important, it's a Eiffel Tower culture, which is role-oriented culture. If that company focuses on the person and very high on hierarchy, that culture is called family, which is power oriented culture. You can see this in family businesses. So organizational cultures in MNC's family culture. We look into family culture. Family culture, they have strong emphasis on hierarchy and orientation to people. They are power oriented. They are headed by a leader. This leader is regarded as a caring parent. So the management will take care of employees, will ensure if they are being treated well and they have continued employment. So they will also catalyze and multiply energies of personnel or end up supporting leader who is ineffective and drains energy and loyalties, because loyalty is very important in family culture companies. Relationships are personal with close face-to-face relationship. They are also hierarchical. Remember, it's power oriented and there's a sense of who the father is in that company. And children are the workers of the company. So, the result is a power oriented corporate culture. And the leader is regarded as a caring father. Japanese firms usually they have family culture. For example, Toyota here. Okay. In Japanese firms, they even have a culture called senpai kokai. Yeah, the relationship that shapes the relationship between an older and younger brother. Okay, the more the more sharp the triangle is, the more severe the family type culture is. Okay, the key has a lot of family businesses, so the family culture is quite high. It's very flat for US because US have low power distance. Next is Eiffel Tower culture. So high in hierarchy. So they have strong emphasis on hierarchy and task orientation. It depends on the company and it depends on the industry. So jobs in this company is well defined and they have coordination from the top. Okay, the culture is narrow at the top and broad at the base. And relationships are specific. The status remains with the job and there's few of the job relationships between manager and employee. So personal relationships are quite rare in this company. And formal hierarchy is impersonal and also efficient. So why is it called Eiffel Tower? Because it's steep, it is symmetrical, it's narrow at the top, it's also stable. So companies that use Eiffel Tower culture, they have high bureaucracy. So structure is more important than function. Shell is a company that practices Eiffel Tower culture. Okay, so structure is important for them because they have a lot of operation and their company is quite complex and covers multi location and multi countries. Next is the guided missile culture. In this culture, they place strong emphasis on equality. Everybody is treated the same in workplace and in task. The guided missile culture will differ from both the family and Eiffel Tower by being egalitarian. It also differs from the family. It is quite similar to the Eiffel Tower, being impersonal and task oriented. The culture is oriented to work because it's project based and the work is undertaken by teams or project groups and all team members are equal and treat each other with respect. Their organizational culture is egalitarian and also task driven. Guided missile cultures are expensive because professionals are expensive. And groups tend to be temporary because they focus on projects. Relationships are fleeting. Okay? Because again they focus on project and relationships are instrumental in bringing the project to a conclusion. A lot of entrepreneurial ventures they use this culture. A lot of innovative companies they use this culture. For example, Apple. Even the CEO of Apple have been fired before. So it's really focused on the task, on the project and not the person. Next is incubator culture. Incubator culture has a strong emphasis on equality and also personal orientation because the organisation is seen as an incubator for self-expression and also self-fulfillment. The structure is not so formal and participants are able to confirm, criticize, develop, find resources for. They have a lot of power in that company to develop an innovative product or service. Okay. And the companies are usually entrepreneurial. They are founded by a creative team usually and they are quite individualist. So they are not constrained by organizational loyalties. Usually, sometimes they will free ride until their eggs are close to hatching. They will have multiple jobs, including the jobs in that incubator company. And in this way, larger organizations will find themselves successfully undermined. Grab, for example, is a company with incubator culture because they enjoy the process of creating and innovating and they have close relationships, shared enthusiasm and also superordinate goals. Okay, so their work relationships are quite interesting. Okay, and also it's more face to face. They work together a lot as a team. Okay, as you can see, even Grab, it is created by two friends. As mentioned, national culture and organizational culture are highly related. So, if you look into this side by side, okay, if power is viewed as equal, if people is viewed as equal, egalitarian or hierarchical, equity or hierarchical, okay, if the culture is focused on task or the culture is focused on the person. Okay, so for example, Nigeria is highly bureaucratic as a country. Okay, most likely the company culture is Eiffel Tower. There are a lot of family businesses in South Korea, a lot of family culture as well. Okay, so how to manage multiculturalism and diversity? Okay, both domestically and internationally, organizations lead workforces with a variety of culture. Okay, we will work with diverse population. Men will work with women, young will be working with old, and different generations will work together. Right now we have Gen X, Gen Y, millennials in one company, even boomers. There are also national cultures, ethnicities and others. So how to manage this multiculturalism and how to manage this diversity? Okay. This is highly related with the evolution of international cooperation. If the company is domestic, most likely that company is not so multicultural, it's not so it's not so diverse. It's more diverse if it's an international firm, more diverse if it's multinational firms, and it's a higher level for global firms. The first phase is domestic. Okay, this is when the product orientation is this is when the company's orientation is product and the structure is more functional. They have no exports, no competitors, and the market is small and the market is domestic. So the perspective is ethnocentric, meaning they focus on their own culture. Phase 2 is international cooperation. The structure is functional. They want to expand, so their orientation is market. They have more exports now and they have more competitors. The market is large and multi-domestic, and they have decreasing profit margin, so they want to share technology. Their competitive strategy is multi-domestic. So their perspective should be polycentric. Next phase is multinational cooperation. The orientation here is price and the structure is multinational lines. The exports are large and saturated. They have many competitors, a lot of large and multinational market, and their profit margin is low. That is why their orientation is price and the perspective is multinational. Okay. The next phase is global cooperation, whereby the orientation is strategy. They are more focused on building company to company relationships. So the structure is global alliances or hierarchy. They have more exports, more imports. They have a lot of significant competitors. Their market is largest and global, and high profit margin but decreasing. Okay, so their perspective is multi-centric. So here, culturalism is higher in phase 4 and lower in phase 1. Okay. Let's take a look into domestic multiculturalism. So it's multicultural and also diverse. So both workforce are operating in the MNC's home country. Okay. In the MNC's home country, there are multicultural and diverse workforce. For example, there are Malays, Indian and Chinese in a Malaysian company. For example, different ethnicities in one domestic company. Next is group multiculturalism. There are different groups here. First is homogeneous groups, where members have similar backgrounds and they perceive and evaluate events in a similar way. For example, a Japanese company. There's also token groups. So these are members that have similar background. There's an exception of a token group. For example, there's an African American in this group. There's also bicultural group, where two or more members represent their distinct cultures. There's also multicultural groups, where there are three or more ethnic backgrounds. Diversity can be useful for a company. It creates a lot of creativity and innovation. But there are potential problems that are associated with diversity. First is perceptual problems. When culturally diverse groups they come together, they often bring preconceived stereotypes with them. For example, Arabs tend to be late. Okay, Asians they tend to be very quiet. So this will lead into inaccurate biases and inaccurate communication, leading to unclear words, misinterpretation, and because we have different language, it's easy to misinterpret. As you can see here, there's also attitudinal problems. So this cause lack of cohesion, will result in a unit's inability to take action to be productive. But diversity is good because it enhances creativity and leads to better decisions. It generates more effective and productive results and prevents groupthink. Groupthink is social conformity, meaning if a company has groupthink, meaning they have less creativity. Diversity is also good because they can facilitate highly effective teams under right conditions. So you can see here group effectiveness and culture. If there are a lot of cross-cultural group here, it can be either highly ineffective or highly effective. Single culture groups, if they work together, they achieve average effectiveness. So, highly diversified groups should be managed carefully so that they will not end up here. So, how to build multicultural team effectiveness? First, individuals must select team members for task-related abilities, not solely based on ethnicity. And team members also must recognize and be prepared to deal with their differences, and the team leader must help to identify and define overall goal. It is critical to have mutual respect, and managers must give positive feedback on process and output. Again, communication is very important, and it is especially important in dealing with multicultural team. So, in the entry stage, multicultural members must focus on building trust, and when they started working, they must describe or analyze problems that have been assigned, and in action stage, they must make decision and implementation, and this is easier to do because they have done the first two steps properly. So, today we have discussed organizational culture and the four most common categories of organizational culture: family, incubator, missile, hierarchy or Eiffel Tower. Okay, and it's highly related with national culture. We also have discussed nature and degree of multiculturalism and diversity, and how to build a good team if our team members are multicultural. So for this class, for homework or for revision, you can review and discuss and try to answer these 4 questions. Okay. In which of the 4 types of the organizational culture would most people in your country feel comfortable and why? Second, most multinational companies do not enter foreign markets. They already face challenges. Do you agree or not? Okay, what are the same problems? What are the some problems to be overcome if they are diverse teams? And what are the basic guidelines to help make diverse teams more effective? Okay, you can do this on your own time during revision. Okay, that is all for lecture on organizational culture. You may learn this more on in human resource management, but this is highly related with international business and national culture. That's why it has to be discussed. So till we see again next time. Thank you very much, everybody.